Putin has just announced his truce deal, or his ceasefire deal with Ukraine, in what many people are calling the worst deal in history. We're going to go ahead and flush this out, go through the history, and explain everything, because what he is saying right now is truly nothing different than what he's been saying for the past 2 years. So for those who don't know, today Putin gave a speech for the Russian Ministry of Defense, and in it, he spoke about a lot of different stuff, and honestly, it really is nothing, because essentially everything that he's been saying to them has been lies, or at least propaganda. But during this speech, he kind of came out and actually fully said, this is what I want, even though in ways he's kind of said this before. In it, he says in order to have an immediate truce and ceasefire with Ukraine, there's a few things that he wants. First is all of the land they've taken since 2022, he wants all that land. Okay? No negotiation there. He wants all the land that he's already taken up until this point. Next, Ukrainian troops would have to remove themselves from those territories. Then they would need to restrict themselves. So essentially kind of demilitarize themselves in a way. There would also be absolutely no peace talks with other countries for securities, such as NATO. They would have to denounce NATO and say, we do not want to join NATO whatsoever. And then they would have to not allow any kind of nuclear weapons in their country. Yeah, that's right. Those are not conditions. Those are demands. Why would any country say, hey, yeah, you invaded us, okay? We're stopping you. We're taking out a lot of your men. I mean, we're at 520,000. But yeah, we'll go ahead and give up our land that we've been fighting for and our houses. And sure, we'll remove our military and make ourselves weaker. And sure, we'll make absolutely no guarantees with other countries for protection. Right? This makes absolutely no sense when it comes to a deal. And remember, this isn't 2014. If you go back to 2014, when Russia invaded Crimea, the United States sat down with Ukraine and Russia and said, hey guys, let's come up with something here. Russia said they wanted Crimea, they wouldn't budge. And so the United States said to Ukraine, well, why don't you just give them Crimea and they'll stop? We already made this deal. We saw this movie. It doesn't end well. Essentially, you're allowing Russia to take a few years off to rebuild their military, to learn exactly what they did wrong during this, and then try again in, 6 to 8 years. And that is a big no-no. Ukrainians don't want that. Ukrainians want Russia to leave completely. So once again, what he's saying here is not a peace deal, but instead a demand, or more or less a wish list. Because what I find interesting about this entire situation is Putin didn't even talk about exactly why he started his invasion of Ukraine. Because if you go back to 2022, why did he originally say that he wanted to invade Ukraine? Well, that wasn't even an invasion. It was a special operation. Why? So that he can get rid of Nazism in Ukraine. So he doesn't talk about that at all in this. What happened to all of that? Did he liberate Ukraine? Did he get rid of it all? What is going on here? It doesn't seem like this guy has his mind together. He doesn't even understand what's going on. Now, Zelensky did talk about this. He is in Italy. He met with the Pope earlier today, and speaking to Italy's Sky 24 news channel, he said that these messages are ultimatums, and they're no different than any other ultimatum that he's made in the past. And Zelensky's right. Putin has said the same thing over and over and over again, and there really was no negotiation. I want this, I want that, I want this. If Putin really wanted a negotiation, he would have done what Zelensky said. Hey, you want to do peace talks? Just stop firing. Okay? You want to do peace talks? Move your guys back to a certain area, and then we'll talk. He's never once tried that, never once talked about it. So why is it exactly that Putin is now talking about this? Well, because they have the summit coming up. They know that Ukraine is signing deals with the countries. Like he just signed a 10-year deal with the United States, and he'll be signing more. And other countries are now willing to do more for Ukraine because they're getting angry and tired of Russia doing all this stuff for the past 2 years, or over 2 years. Now, what's funny is Zelensky went further with his comments to that news channel, kind of really saying, not really at the same time, that this deal that Putin is making reminds him of the same deal that Hitler had made for other countries that he tried to invade in the 40s. Pretty much comparing Putin to Hitler, which, I mean, we all kind of, at this moment, I think we can all agree they kind of are in the same grave right there. So that was what Zelensky said. Putin, I did translate some of the speech and kind of broke it down for you. And it's interesting because you can really tell that he's just not all there. So I just want to read some of it for you. So he says, quote, "As soon as they declare in Kyiv that they're ready for such a decision and begin a real withdrawal of troops from these regions, and also officially announce the leaving or their plans to join NATO on our side immediately, literally at the same minute, an order will follow to ceasefire and begin negotiations." It doesn't work that way, Putin. If you want to negotiate, you stop fighting. You start talking. You come up with something that's beneficial. But remember, Russia started this invasion. There is absolutely no reason why Putin or anyone in Russia should be able to control the demands going on here. We're at a point where you can tell that Putin and Russia are getting scared. They're seeing all of the movements that Ukrainians are doing, taking out the S-300s, 400s, taking down airports, oils, refineries, depots, and then Ukraine is going to get more long-range weapons and the kicker, F-16s. So pretty soon, you're going to see how Russia is going to be really in trouble in the next few months. And so Putin, seeing this, goes, you know what, guys, I think we need to maybe stay face and try to say we want peace and do this and do that. And maybe some countries will back off. Even though every single person in any other country are going, no, it doesn't work that way. For example, here is U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, who, according to him, this is now a key stage in the war, and that Putin's peace proposal, well, Putin has absolutely no right to impose any peace conditions on Ukraine, and that ultimately, this is not peace. This is just demands. Then you have the NATO chief that says that, no, this is not a peace deal, that, quote, "This is not a proposal made in good faith. This is not a peace proposal, but a proposal of more aggression." 100% true. And I'm sure that other leaders are going to come out and say things, but since this is just breaking as of 2 hours ago, I guess it's taking a little while for them to get in front of a camera to make some kind of announcement. What's interesting, though, is on the Russian military groups, they're like, yeah, this is a great deal. And if you start reading some of their comments and some of the things that they're saying, it's insane on how they've been so brainwashed into thinking that invading another country is okay, demanding things from them are okay, and just taking things that are not yours, totally okay. I mean, that's where we joke about seeing Russians steal toilets and things from Ukraine because they don't have them in Russia. Think of that mindset. That's kind of how they are. But one thing that I'm seeing in some Russian groups and on Twitter is Russians saying, well, this is just the beginning of the peace talks. They'll come down to something and do this and do that. And I go, no, it's not the beginning. This is not a good gesture. You start peace talks off with good gestures, and it's not. And let's go ahead and reiterate what the Russian deputy speaker of the State Duma said, because according to him and Putin, this is the final resolution. He goes on to say, if Kyiv refuses to accept Putin's conditions, Russia will in any case liberate the territory of the new entities. This is the last peace proposal from our side. The next one will be a surrender offer. Once again, it doesn't work that way. That's not how peace happens. You don't just keep invading a country and then say, surrender, we're taking you over, and the world just goes, oh yeah, it's fine. It's all good. It doesn't work that way. And so that's why this deal is not a deal. It's a list of demands that Russia wants, and it's kind of like a wish list. They want to have it. They're not going to have it. And I've said this in many of my comments because I know for a fact in all my other videos, there's a lot of Russian bots and Russian people kind of commenting on things. I know here on YouTube, there's not as many. But essentially, If you think this is a good deal, then I have to say you are an idiot. Because you don't invade a peaceful country. You come in, you say, I want this, 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 and this, and everyone just goes, okay. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't. We've seen in 2014 it doesn't work. We've already tried this. It was not a good method. All right? So moving forward, if there is a peace deal, Putin would need to come to international talks and discuss this in great detail, because we don't want a peace deal which could fix the problem this second. We want a peace deal that can fix it for the long term. Because once this is done, whether it be a month, 6 months, 2 years, 6 years, we want to make sure this never happens again. Because the world cannot handle this in the future. They want to make sure that Russia can never push their aggression not only on Ukraine, but any other country. And the funny thing is that you could say, well, you got China pushing it on Taiwan and X, Y, and Z. You could see other countries, North Korea. But right now, on the global stage, Putin and Russia, they're the only ones doing it. Heck, we've seen China say that they're not giving weapons to Russia. And they're kind of, in a way, almost, they're not helping, but they're also helping at the same way, because they also know they need them, but they also don't want them. So Putin is clearly standing on his own. So if we can finally get this last country to finally get put in line and understand peace is what we need for the future, then we will have some kind of deal. It's just in the current understanding of what Putin wants, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And that's why it's so important that Zelensky has this peace summit that's literally happening very shortly. This peace summit is going to guarantee world leaders coming together to make sure not only Ukraine gets some kind of peace or help or security, that Russia should not be able to do things to other countries in the future. And I have to say one thing. If you've been watching the news a lot lately, the United States announced new sanctions. I don't know what you're saying. They keep doing more sanctions, and then this happens and that happens. Nothing's really affecting Russia. This one looks like it is. Because if you saw the sanctions are to stop semiconductors pretty much getting to Russia. And then they put more sanctions on other industries in Russia. And their stock market crashed. It crashed completely. US dollars off. You're off. I mean, at this moment, Russia's currency is probably going to be the Chinese yen, because no other country wants to work with Russia. And if we can keep this pressure up, okay, having Russia's economy collapse, Ukraine going after oil refineries and any kind of depots, and Ukraine destroying whether it be aircraft or other equipment that Russia would need to buy, if we continue this, we're going to starve out Russia to the point to where Russia will not have a leg to talk on when it comes to negotiations or really anything. And I think as we're seeing what Ukraine is doing by taking out all these air defense systems and then taking out Russian targets, and the United States and other countries allowing Ukraine to strike into Russia, Russia's going to get to the point to where they know that's what their future is going to be. And if they have any hopes of a better outcome or outlook, they would actually start legitimately negotiating. And that's something I hope to see very soon, because once Ukraine gets F-16s on the ground and they're able to take out Russian targets and really start pushing the Russians back, having some kind of air superiority, then we'll be in, honestly, a really good state. But all that being said, let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below. I'm pretty sure I know which way you're going. That Putin, this is not a truce. This is just a list of demands, but I'm always interested to see what you guys have to say. All that being said, thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. I'm Joey. I'll see you later.